who is your NBA MVP for this season?
The NBA MVP debate, right? Happens every single year. Maybe gets a little bit tiresome. I personally love it. And this year, I've tried fighting it so hard. Every step of the way, I've been like, SGA is the MVP. SGA has to be the MVP. He's the best player on the best team. That's the criteria that a lot of people base it off of at this point, right? Best player, best team equals MVP. That is the formula at this point, right? And the Thunder have won 10 straight. There's nothing that SGA is doing wrong. It's just what Jokic is doing right. Jokic has to be my MVP at this point. We had this discussion. You tried swaying me. I know it comes as a shock to you at this point because I was so adamant. I was like, SGA has to be. It has to be SGA, right? But I just can't. I just can't fathom myself letting myself have this take when I have a guy going 60, 10, and whatever. Say 60-point triple double never happened in the history of the NBA, right? It's the 6 most points ever in a loss. It's the first 60, the most points ever in a triple double performance. It's just it doesn't happen. 60. I understand it's easier to score in today's league, right? Everyone knows that, but 60 points, triple double. Those two words aren't synonymous, but Jokic makes it happen. He averages 30 points a game. He averages a triple double, which we haven't seen. Like when Russell Westbrook did it that one year, I think the Thunder were seeded 5th that year, and he still won the MVP. Obviously, we play in a different day and age now, but averaging a triple double means something to me. He's averaging 30, 12, and 10. He has the second most assists in the league right now. Has third most rebounds, third most points. Averages actually. Underrated part of his game. He averages almost 2 steals a game, which is more than SGA, which I feel like SGA's like game is like partially like he's a good on-ball defender, but like he's known for like being able to like force turnovers and get steals. Jokic actually averages more steals per game. Granted, it's only 0.1, but he averages more steals a game than SGA does. The fact that they're even in the same category is crazy because Jokic is obviously a center, but there's just no way I can't give this to Jokic at this point. The 60-point triple-double kind of solidified it. That was his MVP. That was his Heisman-like moment. I have to. It's got to be Jokic at this point now.
Wow. So yeah, you completely changed your tune on me. I wish we would have talked before this. We were kind of going in blind. I mean, we know how we kind of feel on some of these topics, but yeah, you've done a complete turnaround on me. I thought you were going to say Shea. That was your guy just like 2 weeks ago when we talked. So I was getting ready to say just about everything that you were going to say. And I actually thought that James Harden had a 60-point triple-double when he was on the Rockets, but I can't remember correctly if that was like a 50-point triple-double. Yeah. It's unbelievable stuff from Jokic. And of course, in every 50-point game, I believe Jokic has lost in his career with the Nuggets. I thought I saw that yesterday. Of course, Russell Westbrook does kind of take away that Heisman moment. Dude, it's so bad. I cannot believe
it was terrible. It was terrible. How do you sell the layup like that? And then proceeds a foul on the other end. It was absurd. Keep going.
Yeah, but no, we're in agreement here. I have to go with Jokic as well, but I did want to also get to the point where we give Shea his flowers because this is just unbelievable. But first of all, Jokic, I don't know if it is NBA voter fatigue, and I don't know if he's actually going to get this. I just know that we believe that he probably should, or it's like the most deserving. I mean, if there was ever a year to MVP, I mean, maybe this is what you do, but there have been so many amazing MVP races and seasons. It almost feels like it's a disservice to do it anytime. But yeah, Denver 47-29, obviously 16 and a half games back from the Thunder, but just it's Jokic, man. And it just feels like they run through him. They always have, and he's averaging a triple-double. I agree. That does mean something. And when we take a look at his MVP season last year, the numbers are pretty much up across the board, right? He averaged 26.4 points per game in his last MVP season, and then 29.3 points per game this year. And it's the same for rebounds. It's the same for assists. And as you mentioned with the steals, it should be Shea technically, and if we're going to be splitting hairs, which I believe it's close enough to do so, I got to give it to Jokic, the fact that he's even leading in that category. That's unbelievable. Now, for Shea, I get it. There have been plenty of MVPs in the history where you vote for the best player on the best regular season team, and this just is it's probably going to be one of those years where we take a look, in hindsight and say, man, dang, like, how did Shea not get that? It definitely could end up being like that, especially if these teams meet the playoffs and the Thunder win. We do it all the time.
Yeah,
we do it all. I saw an MVP race post the other day that was talking about the 2018, like LeBron versus James Harden. LeBron, amazing year. Obviously played all 82 games that season, but there wasn't really like buzz to give that MVP award to LeBron, but obviously he had just such a remarkable campaign in the playoffs. Sometimes
That
we have
narrative
revisionist history.
That narrative is so played out too. Like in the discussions where like LeBron is supposed to have won every single MVP for all 20 years of his career. Like I I'm not a LeBron hater by no means, but like the fact that everyone's always like a lot of those seasons where he didn't win the MVP, he was very clearly not the MVP. Like somebody James Harden had an incredible season that year. He was very deserving of the MVP. I just feel like there's a lot of revisionist history. I don't know that this exactly happens in this case just because of the fact that whoever it goes to, like the second place was so good that year. The Thunder have had two separate 10-game winning streaks, including this latest one. They have the best point differential in the league. Like there is definitely, and we can continue to make the case for SGA here in a second. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I interrupted what you were going to say, but
Mm.
there's cases on both ends of it, and it's just such a great MVP race. I mean, it genuinely might come down to who has like the best last couple of games. Because right now, it's damn near a 50-50 split. And
And
you just making
that's
that
tough
case.
though. That's
Yeah.
tough. Like the last couple of games in March, or excuse me, we're in April now, but like March basketball in the NBA is so different. And then we're getting to the last 5, 6, 7 games of the year that are in the first part of April. That almost does seem a little bit tough to in SGA's defense, if we're thinking that Jokic is catching him or has caught him and passed him, it almost seems like a little bit unfair, right? Because the NBA just doesn't really feel there's about 10 or 12 teams that are actively trying to lose right now. Like the Suns are in a place where they are trying to win and get into like the play in because they have no other choice, right? You're not going to tank. And they like, and they're going and they can't beat some of the teams that are trying to lose, right? But like there are actively teams that are not, that do not want to be in that play in.
And then to that point, the Thunder have already clinched the 1 seed. So the SGA has done everything in his power to give his team the opportunity to coast throughout the rest of the regular season, which you kind of want to be able to do. Obviously, you don't want to like rest versus rest, that whole debate where how much do you want to like not play your starters or not care about the rest of the regular season. But even so, like SGA's put that team in a position where there's still 6, 7 games left and they don't have to worry about it. And that's something that can't be said for Jokic this season. Obviously, the supporting cast around like SGA and OKC in general is probably better than Jokic's in Denver. He puts up a 60-point triple double and still loses. So like obviously there are differences in what we're talking about here, but still like SGA's done everything in his power to make his case for the MVP. He's averaging over 30 points a game for the second straight season. Like he's doing everything he can. It's just like, can you be a guy who's having spectacular performance after spectacular performance? We just had a game the other day where I forget what the exact stat line was, but just another incredible, like he had his last last 3 games, right? 27, 14, and 6, right? That's incredible, but not like maybe not off the charts. 39, 10, and 10 2 games ago. He nearly had a 40-point triple double 2 games ago, and then 40, 13, and 9 the game before that. 3 of his last 4 games have damn near been 40-point triple doubles. How do you not give it to somebody like that? It's just insane that's even a race. But SGA has made such a good case for himself all season long as well.
Yeah, I remember texting you and after the 2020 game, and I was like, is that the best stat line in the history of the game? And it's just like one of those things where you got him in the same conversation as like Wilt, and then maybe a couple of those Harden stat lines that he did have when he was on the Rockets. And obviously, there's been a handful that have popped up, here and there. But like he is consistently night in and night out putting together something that almost feels like otherworldly. And here's a couple things that I think is hurting him. One, I think there was just a recent ESPN straw poll that was released about like their favorites for the MVP, and Shea right now had it. He had it wrapped up at a certain point. I do actually think there were some people just simply not entertaining the idea. I don't know if that's still the case. I really hope not. Second, a fourth MVP puts a guy in a spot
In rarefied
that
air.
is like, and it was the same discussion with however many you get in a row, get consecutively, but having 4 puts you in a spot that is definitely when we're
Gotta
talking.
start having some uncomfortable conversations. I feel like that's what a lot of
And,
people are saying.
and I think they're with the way that some of these MVP voter votes, this could go down to the wire, and we could start seeing some biases. I don't know exactly how they would come up, But we see it all the time, right? With the one guy who votes for Carmelo in the year that LeBron got in 2012, and that guy's from New York. You see it a lot more in like a Heisman Trophy conversation, right? With like the regional voters and stuff like that. But I think that those two things, for whatever reason, might end up hurting him, like whether or not that is voter fatigue or just simply people haven't been paying attention. But it's certainly not over. But at the same time, I do have a little bit of trouble just judging the last 5 games and being like, that's the difference maker. But it's almost like if it's that close, let's go down to the wire.
Yeah, I also think another point that could be hurting Jokic is the fact that he's missed. They played 76 games. He's only played 65. So the fact that he's missed 11 games, Shea, to my knowledge, like I think he's only missed 3. Yeah, he's only missed 3 games all season. So that is definitely like a case where he's played the majority of the games. He's put his team in the position to be the 1 seed. But it's not like the Nuggets are a bad team either. Like in those games that he's played, he's helped the Nuggets to the 3rd best record in the conference, and possibly like looking at Houston for the second. They're only a game and a half back of Houston right now. So I mean, it could be the 1 versus the 2 seed, and then the best player versus what would most people are calling maybe a top 3 player in SGA right now. So I mean, I think voter fatigue definitely could play a part in this. And then also it is just so tough because Jokic leads his team in every major statistical category except blocks. And in blocks, he's second on the team. He leads the team in okay, I'm just going to list them out: points, rebounds, assists, and steals. He averages a triple-double. So just laying out the whole case for him, he's progressive. Like it just feels like SGA had such a strong start to the season. OKC had such a strong start to the season that like it felt locked up around game 50, a little bit after the All-Star break, maybe. And then Jokic, just the second half of the season, has just poured it on and has just had consistently crazy performances. Like the fact that I can even say that he's been close to a 40-point triple-double in 3 out of his last 4 games is absolutely absurd. And he just keeps, and the 2020 game, like there are just so many moments you can look to individually where it should be like Jokic is the clear MVP, but then SGA again, like I don't want to discount him at all. SGA was my MVP until maybe like 4 games ago. Just such both great cases, and you can make it for either of them, I think.
We're gonna find out. There are only however like what 5, 6, 7 games left in the season. I believe 7 for most teams. OKC sitting at 63-12 and on a 10-game winning streak.